Welcome back, everybody, to Music Talk. I'm Dave.
I'm Mike. Stimpy.
Stimpy. I'm Ren today. He's Stimpy. So this week, we're gonna we're gonna check out the latest, which we've had this around for a while. We just been super busy and haven't had a chance to get to it. But this week, we're gonna look at the latest from Alter Bridge. And the CD cover looks like that. Pawns and Kings, the name of the record. Open it up. You got this really super cool image here, which, like I was saying earlier, if I was a super fan, I would get a tattoo of that because that is so cool. Yeah. And you got a picture of the band right here. And then all the song listings on here. CD, same thing. Really cool image in there with my finger in the middle.
Yep.
And then you got the booklet. Looks like this. First page, I was like, man, I sure hope the rest of it don't look like this. First page, yellow and white. You can't read anything. It's thank yous or
it's
whatever.
Like dog peed on the catalog.
Yeah, man. I was like, I hope this whole thing ain't like that. So then you got black and white. This is the way we like it, right? Old people like us, we can actually read these.
I don't need a magnifying glass.
Right. There's your image again, your tattoo. Get that on my back, a back piece. Then you got their who did what and who they're thank you and all that stuff. And then you got this on the back, palm with a skull. That's cool. So it's really cool. Great album cover, man. Probably one of my favorites of the year. Of course, this is only the first week of the year. No, I'm just kidding. So just a little bit of a history of Alter Bridge. You know, we knew they were Creed, right? And they did 3 records, I believe. And that was with Scott Stapp. The third record was called, they had, first one was My Own Prison, then Human Clay, and then they went to Weathered. Weathered was the third record, but the bass player left for that one. He wasn't on that record. Tremonti played all the bass. And then, I guess what happened was they said the bass player had some alcohol and drug things going on or something, and he made a comment criticizing Eddie Vedder. Because everybody always compared Creed to Pearl Jam because Scott Stapp sounded like Eddie Vedder. And then, the bass player's like, we're better than them because Pearl Jam don't have hooks in their songs and, whatever. Big controversy. Some people say they kicked him out of the band for that, but I don't think that's the case. And then 2002, Scott Stapp got in a car wreck. And then apparently he got on drugs, some medication, and between alcohol and drugs, he got so intoxicated that he had a lawsuit against him at a concert where some people were suing him for not doing the daggum songs correctly. Really strange, man. Strange thing. Anyway, 2004, Scott Stapp went solo, and then Mark Tremonti got back with Brian and Scott, what's his name? Phillips, right? Scott Phillips.
Yep.
And then they started Alter Bridge, and then they got hooked up with Miles, So that was back in 2004, and this is their 7th record with Alter Bridge. So these guys have got to be the busiest dudes, man, because Tremonti, not only from 2004 to now was he doing his thing, he was also doing Creed again. They got back together 2009 and did a reunion. Then they got back together in 2012 and did a tour. With Creed, Scott Stapp, the whole band. And then Miles, Miles does the Slash thing. And then his own solo stuff. Tremonti's got his solo stuff. I don't even know what Brian and Scott have done. They probably played on several records too. But man, these are some busy dudes, man. They're all over the place. So 2004, they got together. Their first album is the only album Miles doesn't play any guitar on, which I thought was cool. I didn't realize that he played so much guitar until we started checking out Slash, I think it was. And then when we did Miles' solo record, he did a lot of guitar work, which I was super impressed. So, and that brings us up to now. I'm not going to go through everything. I know that's a little probably more than people wanted to hear. Nobody wants to hear about Creed, right? When I first put the record on, I thought I was going to be disappointed. I'm like, man, I hope it ain't a whole bunch of blast beat, chunk songs, right? Because that's what I was hearing in the first one. I'm like, we've heard this on 10 records this year. Blast beats, chunk, 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 right?
Drone and guitar.
Drone and guitar, weird vocal line in the back with these ahs and oohs. So the first song I was like, man, oh well, let's see what happens. So I did love the chorus. I thought Miles killed the chorus. This first song was called This Is War. And I think that was the first video for the record as well. But again, you had the blast beats, the ahs. Chorus, I think Miles kills it, you know. I didn't like the bridge part with all the gang vocal stuff, you know, but I thought the song was okay, but it's not one of my favorites on the record. It's just too much blast beat, typical, same thing you hear on every hard rock record.
Yeah, I'm tired of hearing the blast beats. I'm tired of watching YouTube and these drummers sitting there seeing how fast they can play. It's not musical. You know, I'm sorry, you know, it's just not musical.
And I mean, honestly, I can count probably 20 songs right off the top of my head where you get a doom, 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 you know what I mean? It's like, come on, man. But anyway, whatever. I mean, it was an anthem opening up the record, so I guess you got to do it. Whatever. So then we get to number 2, Dead Among the Living. You know, and I like this one better than the first one only for the fact that it had a pretty good groove. This one actually had a groove to it. And it wasn't much. I didn't really like it too much. It was kind of average to me, the second one.
Yeah.
The first 2 songs, man, I just wasn't feeling this record very well. But then we get to number 3, Silver Tongue.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a little similar to the first song. It's got a lot of these ahs swirling around. I don't know if it's like a guitar doing it, you know, or if it's his vocal line.
Yeah.
But man, the chorus is fantastic on this one. And I like the movements in it. And it's got all the elements of Alter Bridge in this song.
Yeah. I like it because it was, you know, it's just a nice driving halftime feel, you know. It was a good mid-tempo rock tune that was not the drums weren't filling every open space up with some kind of drum fill, you know.
Right.
And about the only thing that I can knock on it is, again, you heard the droning guitar, but it wasn't as nerve-wracking as it was on the Joe Lynn Turner, you know.
Correct.
I mean that.
Yeah. And I agree with
that album.
And with that droning, man, it's always got some kind of vocal thing swirling in with it too. I don't understand why they do that these days.
I don't know. It's like there's this big movement with what do you want to call this, heavy metal? You want to call it hard rock? I mean, whatever you want to call it. It's a gothic theme that's rolling through all of them for some reason, you know. I mean, granted, there's a lot of gothic themes throughout the music anyway. But you can also play hard rock and not have to brandish that, which a good reminder of that would be, okay, we'll dig back and look at Deep Purple.
Yep.
I mean, okay. And all rock music, all hard rock music is to me, it's over processed blues.
Yeah.
It's one way to put it, you know. And it's not about the process so much as just the approach, you know.
Yeah. Right.
And there's a good way and a bad way to do it. And the gothic theme I think is cool, but I think all these bands are going to realize, hey, you know, Joe Lynn Turner, that was a gothic theme going on with him.
Yeah.
You know,
you're getting a lot of chanting going on now. I don't understand it.
Well, Rival Sons, you know, had that on.
Yeah, the choir stuff.
Right.
Yeah. I guess it's some element now that they're figuring we got to at least put it on 2 or 3 songs on every record. I don't know. I wish they get away from it. You know, maybe this year we'll have some that don't have so much of it. But it wasn't overbearing on this song, so I wasn't really it didn't bother me too much. Like the first song bothered me, but this one, I thought it was much better. So to me, the album starts picking up here on 3. Number 4, Sin After Sin. I really like this song.
Yeah, I did too. Yeah.
The intro reminds me a lot of Godsmack's Voodoo with the you know what I mean?
Well, it reminded me too of a lot of old school stuff,
Mhm.
playing that swampy music type thing with the vibrato guitar and all that. It's
Yeah.
like I thought that was cool, and then all of a sudden, bam! It opens up into this hard rocking
And he
tune.
kicks you with that
So,
riff, right? So the
right, yeah.
riff, I really like the riff. It's the one that goes, but I think he played it too much. I wish they would have left it off of some of the choruses because it was really great riff, but I got tired of hearing it after like the 20th time, you know.
Yeah.
But again, love this song. Great song. I love the way the bass sounded on this one. I love the dynamics of it. There was one part there when they got to the bridge, and I wish the drummer wouldn't have done that double bass stuff because it really didn't seem necessary there, but he did it.
No, but he didn't overplay. I mean, again, it's a tried and true
Yeah,
riff, I guess, that a
yeah,
lot of these drummers and that vein of music are doing.
yeah,
But I didn't feel like he was doing it to go, see, I can do this.
yeah,
I
yeah.
think it
He was using it as one of his licks, you know.
right. Yeah.
So
It's not, see, I can do this. It's like, this is where I'm going with this. And
that is
you
a
know,
great point, man, because sometimes drummers do it just so they can prove they can.
yeah. And
Where Scott Phillips, I think, is doing it just because it's part of his
what's this
repertoire.
repertoire? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And,
So that was,
and
and really, I'm not trying to dog this song by any means. There's
right.
just a couple things that bother me, but I love the song. I
Mhm.
thought the song was great. Then we get to number 5, which is called "Stay," and right off the bat, you know that's Mark Tremonti singing, right? So it's
Yeah.
like that's strange. Now I got Mark singing, and then you got Miles comes in on the backup vocals, and it's like that's very interesting because I wasn't expecting to hear Mark sing on this,
Mhm.
you know, but it was a very happy song. And I mean, it sounded happy. I didn't really dig into the words too much, but the song bounced like a super happy song.
Yeah.
So, and I'm pretty sure it wasn't really a dark one because some of the songs on here are kind of like, we're going to war and all this stuff, kind of
Right.
like a
Right.
medieval theme again, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, this one was happy and it broke it up a little bit because now you're happy, right? Then we get to number 6, which is Holiday. So, um, I hated the intro because it has that guitar part that goes or whatever that lick is. He's stretching, he's doing
Right.
that, you know,
Right. Right.
bothered me. It kind of reminded me of like Psycho in the shower scene or something, right? Or my alarm waking me up in the morning. But
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
it does it later, but it's more subtle, so it was better later. But to me, the chorus saves this song. And once it got to the chorus, I was like, all right, that's awesome. And then they go to this cool riff right before the bridge, which I thought was awesome. And then the drummer did this little roll thing on the rims, which was a cool touch. That little clack,
Right. Right.
So after the intro, the song was great. I
Yeah.
hated
It
that
did.
thing,
Yeah. Well,
but
didn't on Holiday, when he's doing that guitar intro, wasn't that where they did like this when the band came in? It was like this real quick turnaround. Bam. It was like
yeah,
just all of a sudden right in your face. It was like
right.
it was a weird little countdown they did to get to that.
Yeah. Yeah. Kind of like an off timing thing, some
Right.
kind of
Right.
weird thing there.
Right. They had a couple of things in here that were a little bit like of a 7/8 time or 9/16 or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, there was one of them, and I was trying to count it. I came up with 7/8 on it, I think,
Yeah, I
is
think
what
it's
I was
seven,
counting.
eight. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, Holiday, good song. Again, I didn't like the beginning. Thought beginning was terrible. But other than that, the song was pretty good. So then we get to number 7, which to me, best song on the record. It's
Fable.
called Fable of the Silent Sun.
Mhm.
This is a quite long song. I think it's like 8 minutes and 20 seconds or something. It's a long song.
A good heavy rock ballad, though, man.
I tell you, man, when it starts out, the intro, I loved it. The harmonies, it reminded me of Dio,
Yep.
like Dio when he was with Sabbath. Sometimes it sounded like, right,
Mm.
and that change at 3 minutes was so awesome. It was like, holy crap, the drums were on point. great words. The bass is rolling. When it got to the 5 minute mark, it sounded like Queensryche. It was doing these weird Queensryche sounds, man. I'm like, dang. And then it starts doing all these different things. And I was like, holy crap, man. Now we've turned into Dream Theater for a little while, right?
Mhm.
So you've gone through like all these bands that I love in 5 minutes. And it's like, this is pretty damn awesome.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and then it sounds like they were trading solos to me on the solo because you could distinctly hear two different styles
right,
on
right.
the solo. But to me, man, this song, whew, I really loved it. The 8 minutes went so fast because there was so much changing going on.
Didn't seem too long to me either. You know, I mean,
No,
I'm amazed that I didn't pay attention to times on the songs.
yeah,
You know, I was just putting the album on and letting it play. But yeah, I got notes directly down on this one. You know, good heavy rock ballad, and it was. I remember it too, and it's. And the one thing I'm going to say about their halftime stuff, it's not drudging. You know,
mm-mm,
it's not like a lot of people think when you slow heavy metal down, you get drudge rock. You know, and it's
right.
like, yeah, no, they didn't sound like they were in the mud dragging their feet. You know, they're
No,
they were on top of their game with it. You know,
yeah. I mean, there's 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 such good musicians, all
right,
four of them,
right.
you know. And Miles, I mean, how many times have we said how great Miles is as a singer?
Oh God, yeah.
I
You
mean,
know,
the
but
guy,
I gotta say this though. This album did at times I wanted to take a break because of the trademark Miles sound happening, and it was song after song after song, and it's like I don't know if they were doing a lot of these songs in the same key.
yeah,
You see what I'm saying? It wasn't enough of a change. And one thing that I've got to say too, and I wish a lot of these bands would start doing something to literally change the sound. Let's pick up an acoustic instrument here or there, a mandolin, or a good 12-string acoustic guitar, and play some of this stuff. You
yeah,
know, to break
yep.
it up. You know, I mean,
Yeah, I got some comments on that later,
yeah,
actually, because
yeah,
I got some good and bad that I talk about, and
yeah.
I'm glad you mentioned that because I was going to bring that up too, and I'll do that later
Hmm.
when I get to my bad. But I agree with you, and there are, and with the talking about the Miles thing, because you can definitely hear it throughout the whole record, but
Yep.
a lot of times it's when he's harmonizing with himself that
Right.
it gets that Miles sound, right? And
Right.
I get what you're saying because all the songs kind of had that.
Yeah. It
And
had
it's
that
like,
trademark in it. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep.
And
And you could
that's
have,
like that's like playing the same riff over and over. You know, I mean, after a
yeah,
while, it gets old. You know, I
yeah. And
mean,
they
uh,
could have did without some of that harmony, just let it go, or even let Mark sing some of the harmony on there. But you could definitely clearly tell that it was Miles doing all that backup,
yeah,
most of
they could have done away with some of the harmony and just
it.
double
Mhm.
track the main vocal. You know,
Yeah, yep,
change up the sound a little bit on it. But
yeah,
I mean, I'm going to tell you this. With all that aside, I would buy this album and I would listen to it
yeah, yeah. This
all
is a
day
keeper
all day
for
long.
sure. And I'm being a little critical on this record because I liked it,
Yeah,
honestly. And I'm
yeah,
trying to pick things out. Normally, we listen to a crappy record, we could just dog it, right? You don't even have to think. And
yeah.
this one here, I'm actually going to have to dive into the song a little bit and say some stuff that I didn't like, which I mean, I get that everybody's probably like, well, why are you even saying anything at all? Well, I'm giving you my honest opinion on these songs. And, that's just the way I am. I mean, I like some of the songs, but there's a little bit that I'm picking. So, just me.
Well, one thing I want people to stop and think about, you know, we get critical with these albums and stuff, but here's one thing to think about: when you go to your music collection and you reach down, what are you grabbing and listening to? And I'm gonna guarantee you, there's no more than 10 CDs or albums
Hmm.
that you're playing all the time.
Yeah.
The only reason why you dig down deeper in your stuff is because you might want a little change of pace here and there.
Yeah.
But you got a top 10 that you're digging around and listening to, and look at the reason why you're doing it.
Yeah. Yep.
You're doing it because there's a lot of variety involved in those choices that you're making.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with you. I mean, I guess nowadays with everything on a rotation on their phones and stuff, they get a little more variety, but you're not listening to whole records. Everybody's got one song, they move on, you know. So we're listening to a whole record, and
Right.
you know,
Right.
so anyway, that brings us to number 8, which,
Mhm.
by the way, 7 again, best song on the record to me. I just thought it was fantastic. It's what they call epic, right? It's an epic song, which I hate that word, but anyway, Season of Promise, number 8. To me, I didn't think the verse was much. It's kind of flat on this one, but I did like the way he stops and says to bring about our destiny by himself. I thought
Yeah.
that was pretty good. It's got some good bass line on it, but I mean, the solo was good, but I don't know. Didn't really do much for me. I don't know how you felt about that one.
Well, I mean, it was one of those. It's probably one of those songs where I was thinking, well, might want to cut it off at this point and come back later and pick it up.
Yeah, it's about where you were on that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
I believe
Yeah.
that actually.
Yeah. I mean, because, you know, I don't know. I'll give you a prime example. Okay, this is the first time I was ever exposed to King Crimson. Okay, got tickets to go see Humble Pie, and Alexis Corner opened up the whole show, and King Crimson came on. I had never heard of him. This is like in 70, 71.
Mhm.
And they come out and they open up with Circus. My jaw hit the floor. And then
Yeah.
when Humble Pie came out, after about the third song, I was ready to go because the they were a bunch of thrash rockers. And don't get me wrong, that whole band is Steve Marriott. I mean, it was the whole 9 yards. That Peter Frampton on guitar,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
and but I'm sorry, that was just a bad
Bad
setup for
bill.
Humble
Bad
Pie.
billing. Yeah. It's a bad billing.
Yeah, it was. But my point is the variety that King Crimson had as compared to what Humble Pie was doing. Everything Humble Pie was doing was blues rock, but it was all thrashing.
Yeah.
And King Crimson was going through movements like it was like an orchestra,
Right.
they were
Yeah.
approaching things. And that's the difference, it's and I love both of those bands. I've got their albums right now, listen to them all the time,
Yeah.
both of them. So
Yeah. Yeah, so for 8, for me, the song it didn't do much, but I mean, the highlights of it to me were the guitar solo. Had a great guitar
yeah,
solo.
yeah.
And then, when he said that to bring about our destiny, I thought that was cool.
Mhm.
Then we go to number 9, Last Man Standing. This is the one that's got the crazy meter changes on it.
Yes. Yep.
Really cool intro.
Yep.
I like the intro. Love the meter changes, the syncopation and stuff. The bass and drum are killing it on this song. This is another great song to me. I thought it was a really good song.
Yeah.
Liked everything about it.
If they'd had a Chris Squire sound going on with the Rickenbacker bass, you'd
Yeah.
have thought you were listening to a little bit of a Yes excerpt.
Yeah, it would have been more progressive. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because his bass is a little bit on the muddy side here. And a lot of it is too, I think they're playing in B on a couple songs too. So he's hitting those low registers, below.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. They're trying to trigger those subwoofers and stuff in
Yeah.
concert, and everything, and
Yep.
in your stereo system.
Yeah.
And and I mean, there's a lot to be said about that too. I
Right.
mean, you know,
Yeah.
so, but yeah, I mean, it's a great song. I like the time changes.
Mhm.
You didn't have time to get bored with it.
Yeah, and I think this is where we were
especially-
talking about. We were counting them out. I think I came up with a 7-8 on this one. Not
Yeah, I'm
really
gonna have to
sure.
listen. I'm gonna have to listen to it again and
Yeah,
get
with
you
the
up.
way they were syncopating it and bringing it in, it was kind of hard to count it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so I always listen to just the count so that I can play the bass to it. I don't really listen to everything else that's going on. It's like, okay, if I'm playing the bass to this song, where am I going to come back in?
Right.
So
Right.
then we get to number 10, the title track, Pawns and Kings. To me, it sounded a little bit like the first song, but the bass was great on this one. The machine gun part at the end, I mean, it was kind of cool, but again, it's just like I said in the first song, you've heard this how many times? This and then you get the and then all that mess. It's like I've heard it a lot of times. I didn't really need it in this song. I felt like
Right.
they could have left that out and just carried the part to the solo longer. If you'd had left out half that machine gun junk, I would have been happier. But anyway, if you go from song 10 to 1, 10 to 1, it's almost like you stopped it and then paused and then you started it back. So when you're listening to the CD on a repeat, you're not sure if you're in 10 or if you're in 1 because they're almost, it flows right into it again. I think we had that on another album that we did a couple of weeks ago where it was the same thing. Went 10, their last song went straight back to the first song and it was almost identical.
Hey, it's Joe Lynn Turner, actually.
I think it was actually, yep. But again, I liked it. I liked the solo section a lot. I thought the solo section was great. You know, the bass drums were great. Of course, Miles, I'm gonna say every song I've ever heard Miles sing, he's been great. You know.
Yeah. Well, the thing to me is like, you know, my notes I got on this is, number one, nice time signature changes, especially relating to Last Man Standing.
Mhm.
You know, I thought the production was very clean.
Yeah.
The buzz guitar was bothersome to me, and that's why I keep saying there are other instruments out there
Yeah.
that you can use. Now,
Mhm.
granted, maybe they're approaching this as a 3 or a 4-piece band, but with technology today, especially today, I mean, Led Zeppelin was doing it back in the day. They were bringing acoustic guitars out and stuff like that and doing things.
Yeah.
And you know, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. I
Yeah.
mean, now granted, we're talking about a little bit different, and not with Zeppelin so much, but with Crosby, CSNY. You know, it's a little bit different vein of music, but there's the variety there.
Mhm.
And I don't know, you know, I would love to see a drummer sit back there with mallets sometimes, or even
Yeah.
with brushes.
Right. That's why I thought it was pretty cool touch when he was clicking the rims.
Right,
You know,
right.
it's a
Yeah,
little different, right?
you know,
Because the drums kind of sounded the same through the whole record.
they did to me too, but they were great sound. It was a great sounding
It was
kit.
definitely a great sounding kit.
Now,
And I'll tell you right now, the bass drums were pumping, you
oh
know,
yeah,
because that's what a drummer always wants to complain about. Their bass drums never loud enough. They were loud enough on this record.
well, their bass drums ain't loud enough, then they ain't kicking hard enough. I'm sorry, you know, I played with Doc Hurl with a 415 Music Man speaker in my ear, and I could still hear my bass drum. You
Yeah.
know?
If you don't hear it, you're gonna feel it.
That's
Yeah.
all right. You know, but my point is, it's like I know a lot of these newer drummers today, they're packing their bass drum and using triggers and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And that's where they're complaining about they can't hear their bass drum.
Mhm.
Well, if you've got to run a feed back to yourself to hear your kit, something's wrong.
Something's wrong. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've only got a few bad things that on this for me. There was a couple, 2 or 3 songs. They sounded really familiar. You'll get that pretty much on every CD, though. I thought it was too much vamping of the chunking of guitar to like every song there was a in it. You know, I thought it was a little too much. There was a couple times I thought the drummer overplayed, but not gonna say much about that. But my main problem with this is the same problem I had with Queensryche, is the guitars. There's not really any separation between the two. They
Right.
sound the same. It's not much difference. And even during the solos, when you could definitely tell 2 different people were playing, the solo was in the same spot, right? Where it used to be you had one guy on the left and one guy on the right. And when they did the solos, it was higher on the left than it was on the right. But in here, this record, the solos were all right here, the same spot, no matter who it was. So I'm sure the cat agrees.
She does.
So that's
I-
really it. I mean, I wish the guitars had more separation, more distinction between the two, you know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't have the credits of the CD or the album, but did Miles play any guitar on this at all?
Yeah, he did. He played guitar and they did trade solos on, I know at least one, which I think was probably the what was it, the name of it? The Silent Fable of the Silent Sun. I'm pretty sure they were trading solos on that one, and I think possibly even Last Man Standing, maybe. But I do know that he played guitar on it. It doesn't tell you what they do on here. I only say I know that because they were talking about it in the interview a little bit that I listened to. But you know, you could tell. I just wish they would separate them more, and they're not doing that anymore these days. Sometimes you'll get one where I want to say to Richie Kotz and Adrian Smith, you definitely had a distinct sound. You knew when Richie was playing, and you knew when Adrian Smith was playing, and they had them separated. You know, when Richie was soloing, it was here. Adrian soloing, it was here, and you could hear the differences. These, it's just all same with Queensryche. 2 guitar players, you could have did it with 1 because it sounded identical, you know, for sound wise. And I just hate that. I don't know why the bands are doing that. But I'll get to some of the good points. What's that?
Yeah, I think they're plugging straight into the board.
Yeah.
Use modeling modules and just going straight into the board. And I'll guarantee
that's a shame. It's a shame if they're doing that.
Yeah, it's yeah. I mean, I'll tell you this. In the Nashville thing back in the day, watching engineers back there and studio owners, most of the time, for example, Chip Young at Young in Studio, I was watching him playing some guitar parts, adding to a track that had been recorded. And he was plugging straight into his board. Now, I don't know if that was going, if that patch was leading to an amp out in the studio somewhere. It was a huge studio. So you don't know where signals are going and coming from or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, he stood right there playing the thing. He's plugged in and just started playing his guitar part, you know. It's like, okay. And that's fine and dandy, you know. But the thing is, you can't replace the sound of a good Marshall or a good Hiwatt or a good Vox or a good Fender Twin. You just can't. You can't replace those sounds.
Yeah.
You can sit there and, you know, I got a Line 6 module here, but I'm telling you right now, plugging it straight into the board and bringing it back through the studio monitors, it does not
going to do it.
Yeah, it doesn't sound right.
That's why it always sounds so much better live when you go see somebody live because
you're hearing the stage sound too.
Exactly. Yep.
Well, for the most part, there are a lot of bands that don't do that, but
that's true. So there's a couple of great things. I mean, good things I got. I thought the production was great.
Yeah, I did.
The vocals were super. You know, the drums sounded great. The bass even had a good sound, even though it was muddy and low, a lot of it, but it still had a good sound. I mean, it didn't get lost. I would prefer it to be a little louder. I felt like the bass wasn't as loud as it could have been, but still sounded good. And I mean, you know, Tremonti is a great guitar player. You know, you can't take anything from him either. But one thing I want to say about it is I don't feel like Brian and Scott get enough recognition for the rhythm section that they are.
Yeah.
Because, man, they were tight, you know?
Yeah. Well, you know, what's his name? The drummer, you know,
Scott Phillips.
Yeah, Scott Phillips. He also the engineer. You know? He's also doing the mixing and stuff too for this whole thing. So maybe that's why the drums sounded really good, but I don't know why they didn't change the sound up a little bit here and there. But I mean, that's on them, you know. The sound did fit each song. I can't take away from that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just keep looking for variety in sound. I mean, I don't want to, I'll put it this way. I don't want to go to a bar, listen to a blues band or a blues rock band or a hard rock band. And when they start off, that's the only sound you're going to hear all night long.
Yeah, I hate that too.
That's the only sound you hear all night.
Yep.
Nothing changes. No variety instrumentally.
Yeah.
It gets very ear fatiguing after a while. And so, I mean, but overall, I'm going to say, you know, I mean, every one of these songs on their own right stand on their own.
Absolutely.
It's a great album.
It's
I
it's a
don't,
fantastic record. I mean, I've never been an Alter Bridge fan. I mean, I've never bought much of their stuff before, but I mean, I don't even know what some of their other albums as a whole sound like. I've heard a few songs here and there, but I mean, if it's anything like this, I may have to go back and dig into their collection some. You
yeah,
know, maybe somebody on here then come on here and tell us what you think your favorite Alter Bridge album is, and maybe I'll go dig into that one. But I think it was a fantastic record. You know,
yeah,
overall, uh, it took 2 or 3 times before I really got into it.
yeah,
Um,
me too. Yeah.
but I'm actually giving this one pretty high marks because I think it was a pretty great solid record, and I'm actually going to give it an 8.6. I
Yeah,
mean,
I'm gonna give it an 8. I'm gonna stick with an 8 on it. But yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I'm there with you on that.
yeah,
I mean, actually, it was a refreshing change after the Joe Lynn Turner album.
mhm,
I mean,
yeah,
now I'm not going to say that there aren't songs on that album that don't stand on their own, but
yeah,
I really feel like they cheated themselves with production on that album.
yeah. Plus, I mean, you basically had 2 guys on that record,
Yeah,
where here at least you got a band, you know, and that's why I think Scott and Brian don't get enough because you can tell that they're a drum and bass section that have been together for a long time. You
yeah,
know, because everything was tight. All the movements were tight. The syncopations were tight. They played off each other well. I mean,
yeah,
they should probably be a little, more recognized as a great rhythm section, really.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm there with you on that. I mean, I was pleasantly surprised with 90% of what I heard. I mean, I'm not a fan of the blast beats, but I'm gonna tell
Mhm.
you what, Scott Phillips, he did mix it up
Yeah.
and he did not wear out things. And I'm gonna give him kudos on that.
Yeah. Yep. All
He
right. Well, I guess we'll wrap it up with that. I gave it an 8.6. Mike gave it an 8. I still love this album cover, man. Look at that album cover. It's so
it
cool.
is cool. It is a cool album
You
cover.
know, I just got to show that one thing one more time before I get it tattooed on my back. Where's it at? That that is awesome right there, man. I'm telling you, if somebody don't get that tattooed, I hope somebody out there gets it tattooed and then puts it in our comment on this video
Uh,
because that is badass, man. I mean, I love that. I just think it's super cool. Anyway, all right. 8.6 for me, 8.0 for Mike. Alter Bridge, Pawns and Kings. Check it out. Let us know what you think. Let us know what your favorite Alter Bridge album is.
there you
All
go.
right. And with that, you guys stay safe.
That's right. Peace out and listen to the music.